Let's go.
Well, everyone, welcome back to a very exciting episode of the Storybox podcast. Today, my friends, I'm delighted to welcome Sharon Lechter. Now, for those of you that don't know who this woman is, you're about to get to know more about her, but she's an entrepreneur, author, philanthropist. I always have to try and pronounce that word before, practice it. She's an international speaker and chartered global management accountant, just to add to the ever-growing list of amazing things that you do. With over 35 years of experience in a career as a licensed CPA and a lifelong education advocate, she is the founder and CEO of Pay Your Family First, a financial education organization regarded as a global expert on financial literacy as well. Sharon has served as a national spokeswoman and presidential advisor on a topic for 2 US presidents. My goodness. Sharon also co-authored the international bestseller, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which many of you would know that title, and has released 14 other books in the Rich Dad series too. She has over 10 years as a co-founder and CEO. She has led the Rich Dad company and brand into an international powerhouse. She has a new book out called Exit Rich, which is the 6P method, to sell your business for a huge profit. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but Sharon, welcome so much to the Storybox podcast today.
Well, thank you so much, Jay. I'm delighted to be with you, and I'm excited to share the new book with your audience.
The excitement and joy of having you on here is all mine, because the moment I heard about the title of this book, it intrigued me immensely. So I'm glad that we can finally make the time to actually do this. Before we dive into your new book and all your story and lessons that you no doubt have, I have one question I love asking all my guests at the very start, which is, what does success look like for you?
Well, I love that question, Jay, because a lot of people, because I teach about money and success, people assume that I think success is all about dollars and cents. Mm-hmm. And I believe success is how you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror. It has nothing to do with the money in the bank account. I consider Mother Teresa was very successful, and it wasn't because of money. And so do you feel proud of the person you're looking at when you're looking in the mirror? That's success.
When was the moment for you that you realized that this was success and not the financial or the stuff factor? Has it been this gradual thing over your life, or was there a catalyst moment somewhere?
Well, I think I grew up with a father that would ask me each night, Sharon, have you added value to the world, to someone's life today? And so he's been gone for 15 years, but I still ask myself that every night. Have you added value to someone's life today? And I just actually had another podcast interview for my podcast earlier today with a young man that he told me 16 years ago, you spoke at an entrepreneur class at the University of Arizona. Only did that once. Mm-hmm. This is a result of that class. I now stand before you as a multimillionaire in real estate. He told me that about 6 months ago. We were at a launch for Tariq El-Moussa's new fund for investing in real estate, and he's his partner. And I had the chance to get to know Chris better, Chris Hansen. And we know, my husband and I now invest in their fund. So we're talking full circle. You never know the impact you're going to have on someone's life. Mm. And I think we talk about legacy is not what you leave behind you. It's every single day your legacy is created with the hearts that you touch.
Mm. Do you remember what you said in that speech? And did he tell you what was it specifically that kind of motivated him to become a multimillionaire?
Well, it was 16 years ago. So it was all about going down and speaking to the college students in the entrepreneurship class about the principles of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Mm. And we even played the game Cash Flow with them at that time. So.
Wow. Okay. So tell me about the start of your career. Did you always want to do this in your life? Be a speaker, coach, be in business, invest, be even part of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad sphere, or was it sort of a complete shock to you?
Well, I think, it evolves. I grew up in a very lower middle class home. We lived in a tiny house between my mom's beauty shop, my dad's used car lot. We had rental properties that at 10 years old, I had to go scrub out bathrooms between tenants. I hated it. I swore I'd never be an entrepreneur. I wanted to become a sophisticated professional. So I was first generation of my family go to college. I got my degree in accounting. I was one of the very first women in public accounting, young, single in Atlanta, Georgia. I thought it was, the cat's meow. And about the ripe old age of 25, I was working incredibly long hours. And I said, my parents started looking a lot smarter because they were in control of their own destiny. And I was not. Somebody else was controlling my time and somebody else was benefiting from all of my hard work. And so at 25, I had one of my clients invite me to lead public accounting and join him in purchasing a company out of bankruptcy for new technology. And it was a huge opportunity. And at that point in time, I remember sitting in my apartment doing the old pros and cons list. And it didn't help me a bit because I could argue both sides. Upwardly mobile career versus owning a piece of the rock, right? And my hand took off across the top of the page and said, why not? And that's still my mantra today. Why not solve a problem or serve a need? That's what every successful business does. Why not go the road less traveled? Why not do what other people are not doing? And so I made the decision to leave public accounting. It actually happened to be a really bad decision. But had I not made that, I wouldn't have met a young attorney named Michael Lechter. And we are celebrating 41 years of marriage soon. So as Napoleon Hill says, out of the every adversity comes a seed of an equal or greater benefit. So I got instant feedback, bad decision, best life decision. And that started, we got married, had kids. I started Women's Magazine, sold it. Then I started always thinking about problems to solve or needs to serve. My kids didn't like to read. I met the inventor of the first talking children's book. I joined forces with him and helped build that around the world by associating with little companies like Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street. And so I understood a lot about publishing. I understood about manufacturing, international import, export. And then in 1992, we had moved here to Arizona after selling that. My oldest son went off to college in September, came home in December in credit card debt. We didn't even know I had a credit card. So that was December of 1992. And that's when I dedicated the rest of my career to financial literacy, financial education, and entrepreneurship education. So you fast forward a few years, I'd been working with school systems, hence the white hair. And my husband called me one day. My husband is an intellectual property attorney, and he had met this guy in flip-flops and board shorts with this idea for a board game about money. So I met Robert Kiyosaki at a beta test for the game Cash Flow. And it was exactly what I was teaching, the importance of buying, building, and creating income-producing assets. So I volunteered to help him commercialize it. And during the process, he told me he wanted to charge $200 for the board game. That's pretty pricey. We're talking 1996. So you should probably write a brochure about the philosophy to get people to want to invest that kind of money. And that's when he asked me to become his partner. We were partners for over 10 years. That brochure that we wrote was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Most people don't know that. It was never intended to be a product on its own. We never expected to write 15 books together, but it took off. People wanted more. First, we decided we'll do a trilogy: Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. Oh, no. We ended up in the 10 years we worked together doing over 15 books and a myriad of other games and audio products. And it really was the right message at the right time. It was a true viral success before the internet, before Amazon, believe it or not. And it took the world by storm, over 50 languages, over 100 countries. And so that was really, that's when I found my passion, my internal passion. 2007, I made the decision to leave Rich Dad, not knowing what was ahead of me. I thought Rich Dad was my legacy. Writing 15 books, building the CEO. I was Kiyosaki's partner. I was a CEO of the company. I made the decision to leave because we were no longer aligned in what we wanted to create. And that's when I got the call from the President Bush asking me to be on the first President's Advisory Council for Financial Literacy. So I served Bush and Obama. And I share this story with you, Jay, because sometimes you have to close one door in your life for other doors to open. So everybody watching and listening to this, I challenge you, is there a door in your life you need to close? A few months later is when I got the call from the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Now, I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 19. And we know what's happened to the world economy in '08. And they wanted to reinvigorate his teachings, the teachings of Napoleon Hill, and asked me to step in. Oh my gosh, what an incredible honor that was. Again, I wouldn't have had that call had I still been at Rich Dad. And so again, I challenge every one of you, is there a door in your life you need to close so other doors of opportunity can open? And so that kind of brings me to today. I'm still working alongside the foundation. I have my own company, Pay Your Family First. And I have my new book, Exit Rich, which is with the association of Inc. magazine. So that's my Cliff Notes version of my long career.
I love that story. I love it because, okay, I have to relate. Now, I'm only 24, so I'm still very young. So I've got a long way to go on my journey, I hope. I'm very excited to see what actually happens in my life. But I actually spoke to Robert Kiyosaki on the Storybox. He was one of the first people to actually believe in what I was doing, and got to ask him a bunch of questions, which is absolutely excellent. And for those people that are wondering, like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a big book. It's, for any stretch of the imagination, you're saying it's like a pamphlet. It's not a pamphlet. It's a massive book, which is absolutely astonishing to actually hear that story from one of the co-authors. And I believe Robert told me about it too. But one of the standout things for me in that entire story is, you know, sometimes you have to close one door for another one to open, or you can have a vast majority of doors open for you, but it's the choice of which one, hey, do I want to walk through? And, you know, looking back, just sort of relating to you a little bit, if I didn't close the door on my real estate quote career, because I thought that was exactly what I was going to do for the rest of my life, because I was good at it, I was, you know, making my boss a lot of money. I wasn't really making myself a lot of money. And so if I didn't close on that door, then I wouldn't be doing this today, and I wouldn't be speaking with you, Sharon. I wouldn't be doing any of it. So I appreciate you sharing that. It's very wise counsel. Yeah.
Well, people think they choose a lane and they have to stay in that lane. And while you're there, learn everything you possibly can. But understand what is your true passion. In the book 3 Feet from Gold, which was the first book that I did with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, we talk about your personal success equation, and you can go to personalsuccessequation.com to get kind of a guide in following through, because it talks about combining your passion and your talent, the P+T, and that's all about us. And so for me, my passion was, I was actually angry that we weren't teaching kids about money in school. My talent was a long-time career as an accountant and lots of publishing experience. And so I could combine those. But most of us try to do everything on our own. But true success comes from that P+T times A, that power of association. As I talked about the children's talking book, our success came from aligning with Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, Marvel Comics. And then, you know, when we had Rich Dad, we built it very, very well on our own. But in order to really explode around the world, we needed those other companies like Warner Books, Time Life, and publishers all over the world to help us really take it to the next level. And so the power of association is so important. So your passion, your talent times association, and then times A for action. How many times do we know what we're supposed to do? We simply don't do it. Anybody busted? Yeah, I know that happens to me all the time. And so we almost went depressed with that as a formula. I said, there is still something that keeps people that are successful separate from others. And so there's a last element plus F for faith. Confidence in yourself, confidence in what you're doing, confidence that it's needed and necessary, confident that you will succeed. And when I start mentoring people, when I start working with people, usually it's the power of association and self-confidence that need the most work. And they go hand in hand. At 24, you are absolutely action taker. You've got your passion, you know what you want to do, but that you need to have the right people around you, that power of association, that confidence in yourself. And they go hand in hand. When you have the right people around you, the right people on your team, you have people who are strong where you are weak, your self-confidence comes up, because when you have a bad day, they lift you up. And so that's everything I do, is helping people find their own joy through developing their own personal financial wealth as well as creating assets that work for them.
I appreciate you sharing that, because that's what I've realized, even like the amount of conversations that I've had with people, relationships matter. So how you foster those relationships in your life will determine either how much joy you have, because it's not about stuff like that. Satisfaction, true fulfillment, I have found, is actually having conversations with people that do know more about life and have a lot more experience, and are able to pass that on to you, because then you're growing as a result. And then if you are having a bad day, you can go to them and say, hey, I'm having a bad day. It's shocking. What advice would you give me? And then if they, if they're having a good day or if they're having a bad day, it doesn't matter. You can sort of build each other up. And yeah, I think that's an important lesson for a lot of young people, even older people too, that are listening to this. You mentioned there for a moment about, you have an accounting degree. Did you find that helped you at all with the kind of advice that you give with money?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're not taught about money in school.
No.
And so getting an accounting degree wasn't so much what I learned in school, but being in public accounting for a few years, I saw how companies created great success stories. But I also saw how many companies did not, and what they did right, what they did wrong. And so that it is invaluable information. It's learning, it's street knowledge, not just book knowledge. It's seeing the methods and the decisions that were made, and learning from them have helped me create my many, many different businesses, as well as helping many of my clients steer them around pitfalls, accelerating their path to success, opening doors of opportunity for them. It's so important to make sure that you reach out and find a mentor, because speed to market's everything today. And so you should have a mentor that can help you step into your world and help make introductions for you, help open doors of opportunity for you.
Is that one of the reasons why you decided to write this book now, Exit Rich?
Yes, it is. It's kind of like a culmination of this is my 26th book.
Yikes.
So 15 in the Rich Dad series. But I think it's really important for people to understand that too many people today have built themselves a job, not a business. And they don't realize it, because they're still, everything's wrapped around them. And we need to get to the point where we build a business that can operate on its own. And so the 6 P's you referred to, the first one's people, having the right people in the seats, having the right people on the process, having the right mentor, having people who are strong where you are weak, so that you can focus on continuing driving the forward momentum. Okay. The second one is your products. So many times people have one product. Let's have multiple products. Let's have, the definition of what that product or service is. Then processes, your business systems. That's what allows you to take a successful company and make it scalable and sustainable, let alone saleable. You can't sell something that's not a standalone asset. And so then the fourth one is proprietary. What do you own? What makes you different? What gives you that competitive advantage, that intellectual property? The vast majority of the valuation in businesses today is intangible. 40 years ago, the Fortune 500 companies, 85% bricks and mortar, 15% intangible. Today, it's more than flipped. Closer to 90% of the valuation is intangible and 10% bricks and mortar. And that's an advantage to us, because it levels a playing field, that intangible valuation, but you have to identify it, protect it, and leverage it. And then the fifth one is your people, the database, your patrons, right? The patrons. So many people today get excited because they have 1 million followers on Instagram or Clubhouse or TikTok. You don't own those names. No. All right. So it's so important. You want that. Yes, you want that. It's great lead generation. All right. Your podcast, all that. But you want to bring them home to your database by offering them something, nurturing them, providing that customer journey to have a relationship with your customers so that you can communicate with them directly. And then the 6th P is your profit. We all want to make profit. Too many of us so focus on the product and the profit, and they leave out all those other things. So when you get to the point where you want to sell a business, you can't.
Mm.
So when you start a business, do you really start it with the idea that you have to work until the day you die? Are you starting it so that you can create something that gives you your time back and creates generational wealth?
Mm. How about if you are passionate about this job, should you still sell that job, that company?
Well, there's nothing wrong with being an employee. All right. So it's not what you make for your paycheck. It's not what you do for your paycheck. It's what you do with your paycheck that determines your financial future. And there are many people who they don't want to sell their business, but don't you want more flexibility in your life? So you may love the business you've built. You're not going to love it if it's taking every minute of every day of your life. So let's create it so it gives back your lifestyle, so that it's there working for you, generating revenue for you, and you have your time back. You have more time with your family and your friends, and it's still generating revenue for you. And it's sustainable so that you can create it as a generational wealth to keep it in the family, or you can choose to sell it.
So if I wanted to sell a business, how would I go about actually getting the right price or the best price possible to sell it?
Well, I would start by reading Exit Rich. There's a whole section in the book where we talk about finding the right buyers, because there's a lot of looky-loos. You can kiss a lot of frogs. So let's make sure you find qualified buyers, and the process of positioning yourself, including your employees, when you should tell them, when you shouldn't, and getting to that point. But the valuation of your company is very important that you have an expert help you do that. Because a lot of people will come in and saying, my business is worth 10 million when it's really worth 2. All right. So you really need to have an outside support in determining what the true valuation. And the industries are different. Some industries you're paid on multiples of your revenues. Others it's multiples of your EBITDA, which is earnings before income tax, depreciation, and amortization. And so you need to understand what's right within your industry, and that means having an expert on your team.
So why does the expert specifically determine how much your business is worth if they're not actually the owner and they haven't been part of the company? Isn't it the founder? Isn't he the most qualified to actually say, this is how much my business is worth because I put the bricks and mortar together?
Typically not, because the founder has high emotion. And when you have high emotion, you have low intelligence. So that professional understands the industry. They know what the comparables are. They know other businesses in that industry, what they've sold for. They have all that data at their fingertips, and they can come in and they can do an analysis of your financial statements and say, well, we don't really, we need to pull out the expense for your private plane to get a better picture of what the actual financial records are. And so with the owner's discretionary income sometimes gets in the way. So you have to make adjustments. But understand the value of your business is really important based on what other businesses in your industry have sold for.
So speaking about Exit Rich specifically, was there any challenge for you to actually write the book?
Well, distilling down all the information that you need to know into a very clear, concise roadmap on how to position yourself best for sell. And my co-author, Michelle Seiler Tucker, is the number one female business broker in America. And so she was very tactical about what to do. And I'm much more strategic from a mentor or an investor's perspective. And there were a couple of areas where we didn't agree. And we share that in the book about how we would proceed. And so that I think that actually just adds depth and content and incredible value to the book when we share. We were very honest about our differences of opinion. So I think it really adds a lot to it.
So if someone was to pick up a copy of the book right now and turn to any page or chapter in the book that they're going to get the most out of it in terms of a challenge or a renewed perspective, is there a chapter or page that you would recommend someone turn to first?
Well, I think the very first part of the book, we talk about understanding the why. Why are you building your business? What's your outcome? And so it's hard to do everything else if you don't really know what you're looking for. My dad used to tell me a map doesn't do you any good if you don't know where you are and where you want to be. And in today's world, where the phone knows where we are at any point in time, we've kind of lost track of that. But you really need to understand what is your ultimate goal and where are you right now and how are you going to plan to get there? And so in building, you can't build a house without going down first. You build a strong foundation. You have to put in an electrical system, a plumbing system in order for you to have a home. Same thing with your business. We don't know what we don't know. And it's very important to make sure you build in that structure of the business so that you can take your successful business and make it sustainable and then scalable and then saleable.
Has there been a time in your life that you have sold a company that you regret selling
it? Great question, because what I teach people is you learn from what happens in the past. You don't regret it. You just move forward. I interviewed a friend of mine, Fred Wagenhals, and he actually invented one of the Ski-Doo type machines. And he sold that patent for $75,000. And so one of my friends said, oh gosh, you must just really regret that. $1 billion industry. He says, no, because at the time it allowed me to pay my mortgage. I was about to lose my home. It helped me pay my employees. And so it was a godsend. So the what ifs of the world don't really help you. And so the whole concept was sometimes you have to do a deal so you can get to the next deal. And so I try not to look back because we can't change what's happened in the past. We can only learn from it. We're all where we are today because of the choices we made before today. And if you want something different in life, just start making different choices.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the doors opening analogy that we use as well. So I relate to that. No regrets. Keep moving forward. Don't get stuck. Otherwise, you can be in a world of hurt. A couple more questions for you, Sharon, if you don't mind. So what are some of the pitfalls that young entrepreneurs fall into when they first start out in running their own business?
They don't take the time to structure it properly. They get a little modicum of success. They start selling something, the money comes in, and they don't take the time to build a legal structure. And it's not just the US, it's everywhere on the world. The legal structure to protect themselves and their other assets from the business. They don't put in the right systems. You create jobs for your friends or for people you know, instead of figuring out which jobs, what roles need to be performed, and then finding the right people for each of those roles. It's much easier to manage a system than it is to manage personalities. Yeah. And that happens more often than any time. Friends come together, they want to do something. And I always say, plan your divorce before you plan your marriage. Because when you start your business, you're all very excited about it. You're excited about the future, particularly when you're young, 24, you've got a buddy, you're going to go into business. Well, in 3 to 4 years, one of you may have gotten married, have kids, and decide you don't want to be in that business anymore. Well, all of a sudden it becomes a negative situation. But when you're going in at 24, you go, this may happen. So let's determine now how we will figure out how to let one of us out. And so you do it while you're excited about the future so that when that does happen, it's already delineated as to the process that you will follow. And that way you can maintain the business and the friendship along the way.
Which is great advice, because I was in business, I think it was 2019 with someone. It was a film related business and it didn't go too well at the end, and the split was bad. So it ruined the business and it ruined the friendship too, which we had built over a period of time, which is sad to think about, but it does happen. And you just got to not allow it to impact on the next business or the next. You learn from that mistake and you kind of put in the practices and the necessary things for next time that it doesn't actually happen. So you're safe. So I appreciate you sharing that. 2 final questions for you, Sharon, if you don't mind. This one, maybe a hard one to answer, but we'll see how we go. What do you love the most about yourself and your story?
I believe, what I love most about myself and my story is that I truly live every day to support other people in reaching their dreams. And I do it with grace and love. One of the greatest compliments I get is when I walk in a room, I fill it with love. So, and that is always my goal. And it starts from listening to my father when I was a little girl saying, Sharon, have you added value to someone's life today? And for me, it's about the value. It's not about the money. I never chase the dollar. I never have. I never will. And it's about joy, bringing joy to other people. And in the process, that brings me joy.
Before I ask the final question, where can people find you, connect with you, and buy a new book?
Well, thank you so much, JS. Exit Rich is at all your local bookstores and Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. You can actually come to exitrichbook.com as well to order it there. There's lots of resources and tools there. But please reach out to me, info@SharonLechter.com, an email you can send to me. Reach me on Clubhouse, Instagram, Facebook, author Sharon Lechter, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm Sharon Lechter, LinkedIn, Sharon Lechter. So I'm pretty easy to find. I invite all of you to link up with me. And you can go to personalsuccessequation.com and download that as well. For free.
We connected on LinkedIn and you sent me a message the moment we did connect on LinkedIn. And I was like, I'm interviewing you, which is fun. I couldn't wait. So my final question for you, Sharon, this is my all-time favorite question. I ask everyone at the end. It's a hypothetical one, but I want you to imagine with me for a moment that you've been able to reach the age of 100. All your friends and your family have decided to put together a film for you of everything you've ever said and everything you've ever done. Don't ask me how in the world they got it all. We'll just call it magic for the sake of argument. But they've been able to get it and show it to you on your 100th birthday. What do you want that film to say and to show about your life?
Well, one of the things I tell people around the world is, and I have them repeat with me, you are fabulous. So I want people that have met me to know that I have elevated them in some way. The meaning of life for me is that when I'm gone, I want people to feel that their life is better for having known Sharon Lechter. And I think living a life with love and grace, that's all life is all about, love and grace.
Perfect send-off message. Sharon Lechter, thank you so much for your time today and for coming on the Storybox podcast.
Thank you so much, Jay. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you participating. And I thank you, Jay, for making this opportunity available to all of us.